Good afternoon, Virgin Islanders, at home and abroad. Today is indeed a fantastic day for the Virgin Islands. See, horse racing has a rich history in the Virgin Islands. And for years and years, we have seen horses traverse the streets of Christiansted and Frederiksted, and even Charlotte Amalie and Cruz Bay. But along that path, we have tried a lot of different things to develop horse racing industry here in the islands. And today, it is no different. My administration has been committed to bringing horse racing back. As soon as we got into office, we started on this quest. And over the last 3.5 years, we've had lots of barriers and bumps, but we always managed to keep on course in bringing horse racing closer to you. Earlier this year, in August, I actually took a trip up to Saratoga Springs, New York, to see the Traverse Stakes. My trip was 3 reasons. First of all, we are developing an equestrian program for young people here in St. Croix to take horse riding off of the streets and put it in a place where we can teach young people how to groom horses, how to shoe horses, how to train horses, and yes, how to ride horses. That project is moving along quite quickly, and the people that we were talking to in New York, it's about trading experiences, knowledge, and even maybe some dollars to bring back to the Virgin Islands to make the Equestrian Youth Project a reality. There was also a second reason for going to that trip. You see, we have an equine rehabilitation program that is currently online at the correctional facility here in St. Croix as well. Carolyn Pomerantz has been working diligently with Director Testemark and other individuals, trying to get it up so that we have stables and the inmates can learn how to relate to animals and be better people by bringing them into this, but when we're bringing them back to society. It also gives them a skill and a trade that they can parlay once they get out of the penitentiary. But the third and most important reason was to take a first-hand look at professional horse racing and how it's done. And boy, was I impressed. Over an 8-week term, the people of Saratoga have a racing season that is best in New York and actually makes the most money. One of the things that I had the pleasure of doing there is meeting with various members of the Horse Racing Commission for New York, and also with Governor Hochul, who was at the races to do a dedication. It was a great trip, and we got a first look at the stables, the jockeys, the trainers, and even the owners, and why they participate in horse racing. It gave me that good and giddy feeling about all excited about bringing it home to the Virgin Islands. And first, I would like to say that when we saw this horse racing initial agreement with Governor Mapp back in 2016, even though I was running against the governor at the time, I thought it was good for the Virgin Islands. A little reachy, but good for the Virgin Islands. But that agreement was fraught with contention, and none of us knew all the barriers it would meet. First of all, once it was signed, there was immediate lawsuit from the then Traxco firm that was running the track at the time and the Racino there. There was a settlement made where the government and the VIGL agreed to pay out $1.8 million to Traxco in order to settle what was a long-standing contract by that organization. When we got over that, then we were challenged by the FAA. The track had to be approved in terms of the new track that was going to be built, the buildings there, and everything else. While doing that, we were also challenged by a lawsuit by Southland Gaming, who claimed the exclusive right to have gaming on the island of St. Thomas and St. John, as described in their contract. They felt that they were being implied upon by this contract that was signed. When we had all of that going, if that wasn't enough, we also had a complaint by an individual who took us to the CZM Commission, and we had to get it through the Board of Land Use Appeal, which created another holdup in getting this done. But eventually, we got a lot of the dust clear. And last May, we signed an agreement, an amended agreement that did a couple of things Number one, it settled the lawsuit, and probably most importantly, settled the lawsuit against the Virgin Islands for breach of contract that Southland had aimed. In return, Southland agreed to build a track, and at that time, build a track and provide a fully developed racetrack for us in St. Thomas, and then we would have to find a promoter to run it. That project is now on and off its way. Plans are already almost completed for that, and permitting. We've already started to do the trimming and the upkeep of the track in anticipation of the construction to start, and we should see movement on that within the next 120 days or so. It also allowed now for VIGL to not be responsible for the St. Thomas track construction and to start construction over here on St. Croix. That focus was all good, and we went and we met with everybody. We asked the horsemen to come off the track, and in August of last year, the horsemen complied and moved off the track. But 4 years is a very long time. And we realized that over the course of those years, a lot of things have happened. For one, we had 2 Category 5 hurricanes that damaged both tracks, and subsequently, the previous governor decided to take down and demolish the entire stands on the St. Croix tracks, which could have been salvaged and made this process a little easier. But perhaps the most debilitating thing over the last 4 years was the advent of the COVID virus. You remember all of our investors in this track were involved in the gaming industry. Of all the industries affected by COVID, entertainment took the hardest hit. We could see that in our hotels, we see that in our tourism product, the lack of gaming in the territory for a while, and the lack of cruise ships. It was no different for VIGL. They had to overcome losses here and in the States. Adding to that, the construction costs have almost tripled now. It's almost $300 or more for residential construction for basic affordable housing. That put a lot of pressure on everybody, and of course, the number one killer is time. Time changes so much. They had different changes inside their organization, as did we. But we looked past that. And as an administration, we had to focus on one thing: getting the Randall Doc James racetrack back up and running. So we put our heads together and we came up with a plan. So the most significant things you need to know about this plan that we're going to sign today is the track's going to get built, and it's going to get built in quick fashion. The second thing you need to know is that what we're going to do as a result of a lot of money that was invested in St. Thomas and the St. Croix tracks, the demolition of the stands, and what we feel was a good faith effort of VIGL to be a partner, the Virgin Islands is going to pony up $5 million in support of rebuilding this place. People may say $5 million is a lot of money, but it's our track, and eventually horse racing is the most important thing that we can do now. I'd like to thank Senator Javon James, who worked diligently with us on the negotiation of this deal, and is the sponsor of the legislation to put up $5 million from the St. Croix Infrastructure Fund to be able to make sure that we get this project underway. I know what you're asking. We have $6 million from the tearing down of the boat tracks. Why don't we use the federal funds instead? Well, we want our track built today, right? And we all know that with FEMA, it's going to be a while before we have everything identified, and the complications of a public-private partnership will just make it a nightmare. We'll do something else with our other $5 million, but we want to start today. And Javon James, as our legislator, is going to make sure that we get this track going as quickly as possible and the money injection put in. The other important thing I thought was, because the last agreement didn't have it, is tight timelines. The last agreement had a kind of forever clause involved in it where the time clock wouldn't start until VIGL got the last permit, but it didn't list the permit. We've taken the time to list all the permits, and then there's a tight line schedule in terms of how quickly this track is going to get built. I will tell you today, I really want to thank Mr. Andrew Dubuque and Jason Williams of VIGL for working with us and us working with them. I think they're dedicated to making sure that horse racing returns to the Virgin Islands, more specifically to the island of St. Croix. And we as a community, we have to support them in trying to get it back. At the end of the day, the Randolph James track belongs to the people of the Virgin Islands. And the investments that we put in there are not going anywhere. I'd also like to thank VIGL's legal team, our in-house counsel, Michelle Baker, our Commissioner Calvert White, our AG, Denise George, our Commissioner Anthony Thomas of Property and Procurement, and perhaps most significant in this, Senator Javon James now, who will lead this through the legislature. So without further ado, I want to go on this table right here now and have all of my partners that helped me get this done sign this deal, and then I can return to answer any questions we have from the press that's present or any that's online. Thank you. Now we'll be happy to take any questions from the press or to me or to anyone up here. Hey, good afternoon, Rash.
Just wondering if there is a projected start date.
Well, within 90 days of this, well, I should actually ask Andrew to answer that question since he's.
Thank you for the question. Actually, within the next 2 weeks, I have to come back to. Within the next 2 weeks, I have to come back to the governor with a project management plan that he has to approve. From there, the project management plan needs to go to permitting. And then after permitting, we have some licensing that we have to deal with. And after that, we can really start digging. But in advance of that, we're going to do everything we can on a pre-permit basis to make things move along. There are things we can do on the track that don't require a permit. And you're going to start seeing that kind of movement very, very soon.
Any more questions? We have press on the phone. The consortium. I also want to say that the other thing that this does is before this contract was signed, VIGL had an exclusive right to horse racing and racino in the Virgin Islands. Now that is limited to just St. Croix. So one of the things that this settlement does for us now that we have this signed is they invested a lot of money in St. Thomas, and there was no real way to pay them back or to make a good faith gesture for that investment. The amount of years that they actually maintained both tracks and kept them running in anticipation, the extension of the track that they did, the guardrails, and significant work in St. Thomas as well, repairing of the barns. All that money kind of like went down the drain in a way. So that's why we're subsidizing now, putting back this effort here to get this track up and get it running. So we don't have any consortium?
Hi, can you hear me, Governor?
Yes,
Jenny
I can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to get a sense of what the timeline is for this arrangement.
Yeah, I think we should be in construction, I would say, within the next 3 to 6 months, we should have construction. But as Andrew had said, there are already things that we can do. We can spread the track. We could start repair on the barns. The stuff that doesn't need permitting will begin immediately.
So when are you anticipating it to be completed? Just ballpark.
It's tough to say. There are a lot of hurdles that need to occur, and instead of focusing on a time, which I know everybody wants, I'd like to focus on exactly what needs to get done. And I think there's a lot of entities within the government that can help us do that. There needs to be licensing, there needs to be permitting, and when we go in front of the governor in a couple weeks to look at the new project management plan, that's going to help a lot too. So without getting into specific timelines, I sure as heck hope that we can move as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Go ahead, Rash.
Can you expound on the specific relationship between Saratoga and VIGL now and moving forward?
So I think we should answer the question as well.
We've talked to a variety of potential partners throughout the years. You know, I think it was a widely known secret that we were talking to our friends at Saratoga. We will retain some of the work that we've done with our friends at Saratoga as we go forward, and it's entirely possible that some of the work we've done together will remain part of the project as we go forward.
Any more questions? Do you have anybody else? Consortium? Matt from the source?
Yes, Governor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Of all the projects being done in the VI, why was sports a priority?
You're breaking up real bad, Matt. Try again.
Sorry, one more time. Why was horse racing a priority?
Well, I think as governor of the Virgin Islands, the most important thing is that I listen to the people. And over the last 3.5 years, we've listened to the people. We've done what they wanted to get done. They wanted drag racing. We wanted the Polly Joseph Stadium done. They wanted the waterfront finished. They wanted Main Street finished. They wanted their 8% back. They wanted their taxes up to date. They wanted to have their retirement system in a way that they can. And they wanted their roads paved. So we delivered what they want. Especially in St. Croix, you know, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of nostalgia around horse racing, a lot of good memories. And going to Tortola, I think that was August Monday, and certainly going to Saratoga, I mean, that even reignited me in terms of wanting to get this done. The one thing, too, what I realized over this, especially over the election season, by the amounts of people that have come out to our events, is that people want events to go to. People want to go to safe venues where they could carry their kids. Our seniors need things to do too, and that's why we've invested heavily in the sports and recreation piece. I know Commissioner White is here. He's done an excellent job of doing that, and that's why we're bringing along these things. So you look for a lot more coming from us. We're looking for a Sunset Jazz series next year where we will be bringing in top acts every month to perform in Sunset Jazz. We're looking forward to opening up the drag racing track in St. Croix for Columbus Day or Puerto Rican Friendship Weekend. Hopefully we'll have races for that. We put in over $1 million on that piece. Soccer, we're big on that. We're going to get our cricket stadiums up. We're looking forward to the building of the gymnasium at the university as well. And of course, Polly Joseph being finished. So like the things we're doing have a rhyme and a reason to them. And you know, we know that local people are going to participate, but there's a bigger issue here in terms of creating sustainability. We want to have the Sports Commission finish out the sports plan, sports tourism plan for Polly Joseph, and the sports tourism plan for the Virgin Islands on a whole. I've commissioned them to do that. We've been a little slow on the uptake on that, but we got to get that done so we know how do we bring people in and participate. Go, Rash.
I promise in school I wasn't the guy asking all the questions.
Yeah, I was.
I just got a text message from a high-ranking horseman, and the question is, can they prioritize the repair of the running surface and allow the owners and trainers to exercise horses in the interim?
Yeah, so we worked a lot on that. You know, it's a priority of me because I know that, you know, every time I have to listen to how many horses the horsemen feed in and they don't get to run them and exercise them, and we're going to have to be able to prepare horses before we actually have the races. So we were trying our best to get that. Of course, VIGL's concern is the liability and amount of construction going in. You want to answer that?
Yeah, I think importantly, I think that's best answered by saying that I'm going to meet with the Racing Commission and the Horsemen in the next couple of weeks after the governor has approved my project management plan, and then we can get down to the nitty-gritty of how this is going to go.
I will commit today and say that, you know, we will subsidize the track because it's an expense on them as well too, to have the spreader and the water and to run over the track all the time. We will figure out a way to subsidize and work with Commissioner White to figure out how to get that done. Because in St. Thomas, they're going to be able to utilize the track. They're already utilizing the track, right? We did a considerable work over there on one island. We'll do the same in this district. Well, I mean, he's saying 2 weeks. Are we ready to go? I mean, we could find the money in order to do it. So if we can come to an agreement on spreading the dirt and the government assuming the liability for anything that happens down there, I think we will have a deal pretty quickly. The biggest hurdle there is we don't have any equipment anymore. So when we talked about it, we need a new tractor, we need a new water truck in order to do that. So that's the biggest hurdle. How do we do that quickly? So we don't want contractors to be a lot of money. Any other questions? We good? I just want to let you know, I didn't talk about the storm when I started. I swore I did. I was so excited about horse racing. So folks, right now, Fiona is a tropical storm, 50 miles an hour out there. It's actually heading due west, pretty strong course, but there's a lot of shear going on there, which is slowing down the tropical system. And also there's a lot of dry air. So the likelihood that it would develop is slim, but it's not none. So we know that this climate change thing has been doing some funny things to the storms. We're usually looking at storms that take days in order to develop. We've seen storms develop overnight, go from 50 to 90, and then 90 to 135. So let's be vigilant. This is actually our test run for hurricane season 2022. This is the first storm they're going to deal with, Fiona. We're going to get a lot of water, so, you know, prepare for that. We had sandbag distribution all day today. We're going to have it tomorrow. We're probably not going to open any shelters unless we hear, unless she swings up to a Category 1 or anything close tonight. Then we'll open up our shelters and start to look at that. If you have any specific problems, you can reach out to Human Services or our VITEMA offices to answer some of those questions that you may have. We're going to do our best to secure. All the guts and everything are clean. I know people are worrying about Frederickstead, but most of that problem is because the sidewalks have actually fell into the guts. So the platforms that kept the sidewalk up, those galvanized things have gone down into the guts and are clogging. So we have about a $20 million project to repair all of those sidewalks and add it to the 1,600 other projects that we have to do, but we're going to get it done for you. So lots of flooding over in St. Thomas and St. John. Watch out for the landslides in the boulder if you can. Stay at home. The good news is we're going to get some rain tomorrow. Late tonight, tomorrow. That's the first system that's coming through, and then maybe Saturday, going into Saturday evening, we'll see Fiona pass through the Virgin Islands. I know most of you are prepared for this. We've dealt with a lot worse storms, and hopefully this one will just say a tropical disturbance, tropical storm for now. But don't take chances. Act like it's a Cat 5, because these things develop very quickly, and you don't want to be out in the wind buying gas, going to the grocery store, or worse, putting up your shutters. So just be prepared, be safe, and everything is going to be all right. We'll keep you updated tomorrow. Darryl Joshin and Richard will be around. Mota will be around giving updates on the radio and keeping you as informed as possible. So just stay tuned, and we'll bring it to you. Other than that, have a fantastic afternoon. God bless you. Love you.